If you're a compliance professional, then Compliance Man Chooses the Target is here to help you figure out what to focus on and how within your organization. Join your host, Tim Khasanov-Batirov, the Compliance Man, for 3 minutes of condensed compliance awesomeness.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode of Compliance Man Chooses the Target with Tim Khasanov-Batirov. And we are back for a special Christmas holiday episode. So, Tim, first of all, welcome back. And how is Compliance Man, and what is he thinking about Christmas and compliance?
Well, Tom, thank you for hosting me. I just asked Compliance Man. He told me that he likes to celebrate all holidays, and the Christmas is his favorite holiday.
So what advice does Compliance Man have around holiday giving, Tim? And I should say that certainly in the United States, it's tradition to give gifts at the Christmas season and the holiday season. I would have to assume it's the same in Russia and also in Ukraine. But what is it like in emerging markets for really any very important holiday?
Well, that's a very good question. In Russia, Ukraine, and many other countries of the former Soviet Union, we celebrate a New Year Eve as an addition to the Christmas. Some people are not celebrating Christmas, but the New Year, which is kind of the same holiday in terms of gifts necessity, we are celebrating each year. So for us, it's very important as compliance people to be sure that in companies where we're working, we're not violating anti-corruption rules. So here is the probably a bit scary Christmas fairy tale. So let's get started. The first thing which I would like to discuss would be how to kill your corporate gifts policy. If you work at the headquarters of an international corporation and believe that all questions with gifts giving in your company are already settled many years ago, you might be wrong. The most unpleasant news could be that the reason of this problem are not necessarily rock managers in the fields who deliberately violate rules. Look at your global gifts policy, and if it says something like gifts or not nominal value are allowed, there is a big chance that the problem is already there. Assume that in some countries at which your company operates per local legislation or updates in the legislation, gifts giving to state officials are prohibited. As such, all this process is subject to certain limitations. That's what I have faced. In ideal case, your global policy is adopted in each jurisdiction by a local compliance team. We recommend to check out if it is really so, as most likely you don't have compliance folks in each jurisdiction of corporate presence. Another typical problem is when simultaneously in each respective jurisdiction there are two policies. The global one, which allows petty gifts, even if it contains clause on prevalence of local laws, and a tailored gifts policy adopted by a local office in the respective jurisdiction. In reality, the personnel in the field will get confused which policy to follow. So that's the starter, Tom.
So, Tim, how does that lead to potentially toxic gifts?
Oh, that's a very good question, because if you don't have clear understanding what to give and whether you can give presents as such, this could lead to the second problem, which is toxic gifts. The FCPA enforcement practice clearly demonstrates absolute ban on entertainment of state officials and politically exposed persons by companies. It is also clear that it is forbidden to give luxurious gifts and even sometimes small gifts if there is a corruption intent. Still, there is a great area for a list of non-luxurious gifts, which still might be considered as non-appropriate from my point of view, even there is no intent to influence decision-taking. I mean alcohol, for instance. In some jurisdictions, it is a common practice to give alcohol as a Christmas gift. From my perspective, it is not right, but still just a personal view, not a law.
Well, Tim, I don't mean to sound skeptical, but I think most Americans would view alcohol as a mainstay of gifts, certainly in Russia, perhaps Ukraine, and other jurisdictions as well. How do you respond to something like that?
Well, that's a good question, Tom. I just looked at the FCPA enforcement practice to find out anything about alcohol as such. Didn't find anything clearly stipulated about that matter. However, in my personal view, maybe I'm wrong. It's not ethical to give such type of gifts in business practice. But this is still my personal view, and this is something which I would agree with you is not a black letter.
So, Tim, having talked to us about perhaps killing your corporate gifts policy and your view on toxic gifts, are there non-toxic gifts that you would feel are appropriate in the holiday season to give to a customer or other third-party business relation as a gesture of the holiday season, as a gesture of goodwill, or even as a gesture of friendship?
Well, I would think this type of gifts could be allowed in case if they are allowed by the local legislation, are common per business practice in the specific industry, and as I have said, allowed by per legislation. In my view, the risk appetite should be the following: no gestures to state officials in any case, because it might lead to problems, but could be something as a gesture or souvenir to a business partner. And I think this would be fair. However, Tom, as long as we're having a special Christmas podcast today, I would like to share with our listeners the non-toxic gift which I would like to give. We have touched a couple of problems related to gifts giving, and now it's time to get back to talking about pleasant sides of Christmas. So it is time to say that Compliance Man has launched a channel at YouTube called Compliance Man by Tim Khasanov-Batirov, aimed on sharing compliance tips with professional community. The first video of the series, called 1001 Compliance Days, is already available at this channel. Please feel free to comment and subscribe. So, Tom, Compliance Man asked me to say Merry Christmas to everyone.
Well, that's certainly very much appreciated. I've had the opportunity to see Compliance Man on his YouTube channel. Compliance Man has graciously given us an English language translation. So for those people who may not speak Russian or Ukraine, they can watch it in their native language. And it's a lot of fun, I think very informative. And frankly, I can't wait to see where Compliance Man might take his YouTube videos, Tim.
Well, I will need to talk to him, and I will keep you updated, Tom, as long as you're the first person to hear all news about Compliance Man.
So, Tim, as we are now in early December, I'm looking forward to Compliance Man perhaps giving us some of his highlights over the past year and later down the road, perhaps where he may see compliance going in 2020 and beyond. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Compliance Man Chooses the Target. Help us get the word out by rating and leaving a review.